feel like as soon as you say that a driver does good, like all of a sudden then they do really
Yeah.
terrible. So I don't want to jinx it at all. Like I don't want to put anything out into the universe about this. But
Carlos is like, yeah, this is what we do. And I was like, yes, that is what you do.
hi guys, welcome back to On the Chicane. You're here with me, Paris, and my co-host Marium, and we're going to talk to you today about the Monaco Grand Prix and everything that's just gone down in this session. We're recording this pretty soon after the race, so if any new developments have happened, we do not know about them yet. But hopefully today we can go through a few things and it will be a really good chat. So let's get straight into it.
Yeah.
Marium, where should we start?
I think the best place to start is definitely with that whole quali / race start situation with Ferrari and Leclerc, because I feel like, I don't know if us as fans jinxed it or if Monaco's just jinxed for Leclerc as a whole, but like as a huge Ferrari fan, I was gutted, very close to tears actually. So qualifying yesterday, obviously, I don't know if you managed to catch up on it.
I did, yeah. I managed to watch it this morning actually. So
I feel like Q1 and Q2 were quite boring. And then we got to Q3 and it was kind of the final top 10. Everything's going pretty smoothly. Hamilton was having a disastrous weekend, like nowhere near the top 5.
So all you Hamilton haters were probably super happy yesterday.
Yeah, I mean,
Just
well,
saying.
no, I wasn't, but it was just like, this is going to be interesting, and then you see Leclerc putting in all these like great lap times, and then Verstappen's trying to chase him down and put in his best lap time for qualifying, and then all of a sudden you've got 18 seconds left and Leclerc goes off and into the barriers and the session is red flagged and stopped.
So one of the things I saw on Twitter yesterday was a lot of people kind of, I don't know if they were joking, making memes out of the situation. And, they had like Verstappen and they had Leclerc over his shoulder, kind of like watching him, like, watch out, I'm coming for you. And they had pictures of the crash. But basically, a lot of them were insinuating that Leclerc did it on purpose. And I personally did not get that vibe at all when I watched it this morning. As much as you didn't see the build up to the crash because of the way it was cutting, they were following the flying laps at the time of like Verstappen's latest flying lap, Sainz's flying lap, and I think Bottas was also on a flying lap. Yeah. But they cut very quickly, obviously straight after to the yellow flags and Leclerc in the wall. But to me, that was like a massive hit. Like, he didn't tap it. He clearly went into the wall at some force. And, if you're trying to do something on purpose, you don't want to damage the car so that you can't race. You just want to stop everybody else from being able to race. Yeah. So I do think, like, sometimes as fans, even if you're making a joke, we have to just be a little bit realistic with what we're saying. And, not everything is a massive conspiracy. I'm happy for you guys to have conspiracies. They make the world a little bit more interesting. But in this case, I do not think, we've seen it in the past as well, where, Rosberg in 2014, he ran off the side and kind of overshot his braking zone. And that caused, Hamilton to have to slow down because the yellow flags came out, and then he didn't get his pole, although Rosberg was on pole. Schumacher as well kind of did a similar thing where he didn't brake and ended up into the wall, and that allowed him to save his pole. So it has happened in the past, and I can see why some people might think that's a convenient thing to happen. Oh, Leclerc was on pole and Verstappen probably was going to beat him to the post. However, Ferrari have been strong for the whole weekend since practice on Thursday. And Leclerc, I don't think Leclerc is malicious enough to do that on purpose. Rosberg on the other hand, Schumacher on the other hand, but no, I don't think Leclerc did that on purpose.
I mean, if, like you say, even if he did do it intentionally, like, there's no way that you would intentionally have that much damage to your car. Like, you wouldn't be like, yeah, let me fuck this up for my weekend. Like, absolutely not. And I just think it's ridiculous, really, that people are saying that like it was intentional. And even actually before the race started, Rosberg, I don't know who made him like a commentator for Sky Sports, but you know, he was on there and he was saying, you know, it's Leclerc's, it's his own fault. And I was like, okay, yes, it is, but the way that it came across was like it's his own fault. It's like the price that he's got to pay. And I was like, it wasn't intentional. We all know it wasn't intentional, because like we've just clarified, he wouldn't be like causing that much intentional damage to his car and potentially jeopardizing his own race. So I don't know. I just think
also with Leclerc, I think it's worth pointing out as well that he is a good driver. As you know, we've clearly seen over the course of the weekend, and I don't even think it's like the same as say like a Mazepin situation where he's out of control and you know just smashed it into the wall for the sake of smashing it into the wall. Like that seemed like a genuine mistake, and he did pay the price for it dearly, because obviously then the repercussions were felt today with him not being able to start the race. And maybe he does have a little bit of a Monaco curse, because he's been in F1 for 4 years now, and you know, bar 2020 when there wasn't a race in Monaco, he hasn't actually made it to the end, and in this case he didn't even make it to the start. So sorry,
it's
Leclerc.
pretty sad considering obviously this is his home race.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really excited because I feel like pole, especially pole from Monaco is such an advantage going into the first lap, and who knows if he would have held on. Don't know if Ferrari would have been able to kind of keep Verstappen off, but he would have had a very good chance of being on that podium. So yeah,
Definitely.
I'm gutted for him, really.
I reckon it probably could have been 2 Ferraris on that podium, like you were hoping,
I know,
had
I
he
really
stayed
want
in the race. I think, I mean, overall, the race, should we maybe just cover the race in general?
Yeah.
I don't think there was too many high or low points of the race. So, you know, we'll get into some of the more specific points, but overall, it was a bit of a procession race. We've seen this at Monaco over the years. Sometimes because of the size and the width of the track, it's such a narrow track, it's very difficult to overtake. It's also a very short track, so there's not like very long straights or anything like that, you know, that you can get around the track very quickly. It just doesn't have the difference in kind of like speeds in like corners and straights for people to kind of build up and do all of these amazing, you know, overtakes and different things. So it can become a bit of a boring race, and we did see that today. And where it usually gets spiced up is either with if there's rain, or if there is like an amazing strategy, or even how else, I'm trying to think, safety cars and crashes. That was what I was going to say. So, you know, there's a couple of different ways that Monaco can be interesting, but none of that stuff happened today. So it was just a bit of a procession race. In saying that, a couple of things did come to light. You had Bottas and his really bad pit stop.
Yeah. So, oh God, it just seems to be Bottas's bad luck at the moment with his pit stops. I don't know what is going on there, but it's always Bottas. And the annoying thing is that Hamilton literally had a pit stop just one lap ahead of him. So Hamilton came in, nice, clean, short, quick pit stop, went straight back out. Unfortunately, his undercut didn't quite work, and he ended up coming out still behind Gasly. I think he came back out in 7th. So it didn't really work to his advantage, and he was not happy, to say the least. But then Bottas comes in one lap later. This was like around lap 33. Comes in to take his pit stop, and lo and behold, you have a problem. So was it his rear left? I don't know.
I think it was his front right. No.
Okay, I'm totally making that up then.
Front right.
One of his tires, basically.
One of his tires. Could have been his rear left. Actually, I'm not. I might have switched the car round in my head. Either way, one of his tires.
One of his tires. The wheel nut was jammed, as they were trying to, like, they couldn't get the tire off. And
they literally showed the like close up, and you saw the kind of shrapnel coming off of it as it was spinning, like
yeah,
where the metal was grinding into the metal. So like, you know, when you accidentally strip, like if you do a screwdriver and you accidentally strip the screw, that's basically what happened, but on the wheel nut. So then once it was flat, they can't get it in and get it off no matter what. You literally have to go back in with like a crowbar, damage the wheel, and to get that off. And I'm just like, come on, Mercedes. Like, what are you doing? This is now, I think, the third race, because the same thing happened in Bahrain. Well, he had like a really long pit stop in Bahrain. He's had a good 3 pit stops now.
yeah.
Do you remember when I was saying a few videos back, and I was like, Mercedes need to like really get onto their pit stop training?
Yeah, they really do. And I don't know, obviously, if you can blame this entirely on Mercedes themselves, because it does seem like it was a machine error, but it's just Bottas's bad luck that it happens to be him. I mean, it would be even worse if it happened to Hamilton, and I would have been screaming if it was Hamilton. But yeah, it's just such a shame. And I just think, I mean, in the race, I can't remember how long he was stationary for, but I'm pretty sure at least 1, maybe even 2 laps went by, and then they decided to retire him.
Yeah, he was
But
stationing for a
it
really long time.
was awful. I was like, there is no point in them even trying to get him back out now, because he will not be able to compete at all. And it's sad because he went from P2 to a DNF. Like, it's just,
I think that's messed up his championship chances, really. Well, maybe not, because there's still a ton of races, but I don't know. The way you say, like, you know, it could just be his bad luck, I disagree. I think in this particular instance, it lies solely on Mercedes' heads. I think they have shown frequently that they are not good with pit stops.
yeah,
And,
they have.
you know, having bad equipment to me is a bad workman blaming their tools, because other people don't seem to have that big of an issue with, you know, even what was it the other day, and it was like Giovinazzi's pit stop was really long, and it was really a real bad shame because the tire had a puncture in it. But even still, like the guy who had the tire like picked up straight away, was like, oh shit, this has got a puncture in it, like get another tire. And they were, even within their slow pit stop, they were quick. And I feel like that same stuff just doesn't happen at Mercedes. Like their pit stops are slow, they're a little bit sloppy. Like, I'm pretty sure, I don't really know the mechanics of a gun, but like, I don't know. I feel like there was a way to have avoided that. I do. I blame that solely on Mercedes. I think they need to get it together, and I'm gonna give it to Bottas this time. I feel like he needs to be more supported by Mercedes in every aspect of this race.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think I read the other day that Bottas hasn't got a contract extension yet, like beyond this year. So it really does leave you kind of wondering what his future is, because things like this keep happening, and it's like, you can blame the driver, of course, but you can also blame the team. And if the driver's not performing, why isn't he performing? He's got the best car on the grid. He should
And
be.
that's the thing. I think Bottas is performing. He was second in quali. He wasn't third. He wasn't on pole, but he was second. He was in a really good position.
Yeah. So it's a shame that a race where he could have potentially brought home some serious points ended like that for him. So yeah, I do wonder what's going to be happening in the Mercedes debrief today, because Hamilton's race, not great. Bottas's race, not great. So yeah.
Hamilton was pissed. He was on that radio like cursing everybody out, and I was like, damn, nice Hamilton. Thank you team. You know, everybody back in Brackley. That is out of the window today.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I don't know. I didn't see any kind of post-race interview or anything with him, but I can't imagine he was too happy. I mean, he's had a pretty bad weekend, to be honest. It hasn't really been his best weekend. So yeah, I do wonder what's happened with Mercedes this weekend, because it's been great.
I think maybe it could be track specific. You know, it's a track that is, like we said, it's quite slow, and maybe that just doesn't favor their car, because perhaps they need the kind of faster pace, longer tracks to warm up their tires, to give them the benefits of the downforce. So, you know, I feel like this race isn't going to be their race. Maybe next race will be, but you guys are world champions. Like, come on, this race shouldn't have gone like this for them. I don't think, personally.
No, it shouldn't have. But that being said, obviously Red Bull managed to really pick it up for themselves and do well. I mean, even well, obviously Max won the race,
Yeah,
and I do think even though he had a bit of a sloppy start, obviously Bottas had the better start, but Max obviously still managed to fend off Bottas and keep that lead. But even Perez, like I can't remember his position, but he finished in fourth, I think. And
he started off in 8th. Yeah,
so he gained
and then
4
he finished in
positions,
4th.
finished fourth. That is some good points for Red Bull. And now they are, for the first time in a very long time, ahead of Mercedes in the championship. They're 1 point ahead. And Max is 4 points ahead of Hamilton in the Drivers' Championship.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's really heating up, and we're going to see a lot more kind of feistiness. And I don't know how well Hamilton's going to be able to keep his cool and maintain that kind of control that he always seems to have. Because, like we've said before, actually, we've seen that when things don't really go his way, he does kind of then start to slip up more just because he's losing that control. So yeah, I'm really intrigued to see how it's going to work out for Mercedes as a whole, and also Hamilton as just an individual driver.
Yeah. I mean, I'm like I said, I'm not a fan of like Red Bull in general, but I love the fact that there is a title fight this year, and we're probably going to see it flip back and forth a couple of times before the end. You know, we've got 18 races left to go, and that's still going to be a lot of time. We're only 5 races in, so that's going to be a lot of time for them to swap back and forth, and whoever comes out on top, I think it's going to be a great season either way. Just you know, I would prefer for Mercedes to win, but if they don't, I mean, they've got 7, so I don't mind.
Go down to the wire. I think that would be amazing.
And Ferrari also were looking really, really strong this weekend, but I do think that was track specific.
Yeah, I think you're right, unfortunately. But that being said, they have shown a lot of potential over the past few races. So yes, they had a very strong weekend this week, but I'm hoping it's not just like Monaco related. I hope that they can kind of take some of this, learn from it, and keep it with them for Azerbaijan, because I'm loving seeing Ferrari kind of climbing their way back towards the top, because it's been a while, and I want to see a few more podiums. I was so happy to see Carlos on the podium today. Is it his first podium for Ferrari? Yeah, it is. First podium for Ferrari. Also Ferrari on the podium, I just love to see.
I think he really stepped up, and you know, like Leclerc didn't obviously make it into the race, and I think all of us probably thought somehow something was going to happen, safety car, whatever, and that would have changed the order, but it didn't really change the order, and he managed to kind of stay right until the end, you know, just working it and managed to get it onto the podium. So well done to him. Well done to him.
I mean, like you say, it might have been track specific, and obviously there is an advantage for the front runners on this track, because even DRS zones I feel like aren't that great here, because you don't have that chance to kind of use it at its full effect and overtake. So obviously he was in a very strong position from the get-go. And he managed to maintain that. And I don't know if you saw at the end, post race, he was talking to, I think it was Coulthard, and he removed his cap. He wasn't even sweating, and Coulthard was like, how have you managed to keep, like, you're not even sweating, like that looks like it was really easy for you. And Carlos was like, yeah, you know, this is what we do. And I was like, yes, that is what you do.
Oh man, I don't know. I did see that, but I didn't know if he was being serious or not. But no, I thought it was a good position for him to be in. Like the fact that Leclerc wasn't first, and he still managed to make it onto the podium. Well done to Sainz, definitely, and well done to Perez as well. Like, because Perez was fourth, and he was like catching up to everybody in the front runners. We've been waiting to see Perez kind of like pull that trigger and be more on fire in Red Bull. I think, he was lucky, obviously, that it wasn't a race that had a lot of overtakes or anything. So he kind of was cemented in his position wherever he landed, but he did start off in 8th. So, like Perez also is doing really well. And I hope this is the kind of, I don't want to jinx it. I feel like as soon as you say that a driver does good, like all of a sudden then they do really terrible. So I don't want to jinx it at all. Like I don't want to put anything out into the universe about this, but I'm happy that it looks like he is finally more comfortable in the car.
Yeah.
And that's all I'll say. I'm not going to say too much more on that because I really don't want to jinx it. You guys know I love Perez, but he's doing really good.
Speaking of being comfortable in the car, Vettel as well really seemed to come into his own today and finished 5th, got driver of the day, and really kind of showed everyone again who he is. And I loved that because I'm still a huge Vettel fan. So yeah, again, don't want to jinx it, but I was quite happy with the top 10 in general, to be honest. I think it was a really good finish kind of position for everyone. Gasly as well coming in 6th, and
I think in contrast you have like Ricciardo, who forgive me, I don't actually know exactly where he finished. I should have the bits up on my screen, but he was complaining yesterday, I think. Well, I don't know if it was a complaint as such, but he mentioned that, something must be wrong, because if he is a full second behind his teammate in qualifying, and, he was in, so he finished, what is his name? I want to say 12th, yeah. So he finished quite far behind, like you've got Norris in 3rd and he's in 12th. There's something wrong there, and I don't know if it's like him complaining about his driving style, and maybe psychologically he's resisting the car because he's expecting it to like adapt to him and him to adapt to the car. Or if there genuinely is like some sort of difference in the setup that favors Norris and doesn't favor Ricciardo.
It's the same kind of thing as Bottas and Hamilton, isn't it? I suppose.
Yeah.
You kind of have that number 1, number 2 dynamic, and unfortunately, it's really hitting Ricciardo hard. I mean, he's recently become kind of the favorite of Monaco. And we didn't see that at all today. In fact, don't know if you saw that part where Lando lapped
him. Yeah, I did see
him
that
as he went by.
Oh, pain.
Yeah.
Shoot me in the heart.
I know.
I don't know, it's a shame, man. Like, I'm a big Ricciardo fan. I think he's a good guy. Like, I'm definitely a person who kind of takes into account someone's personality off the track as much as them on the track. And I like to see Ricciardo do well, and he's just not. And I'm just like, no.
Yeah.
Come on, guy.
It's definitely a shame to see. But hopefully, I mean, this is his first season. Hopefully he'll be able to pick it up.
Yeah. I think long term, though, he needs to kind of like stay there for a while. He keeps doing a couple of years here, a couple of years there, but maybe he needs to be there for like a solid. I think he's contracted until 2023. So he's got 2 more years at McLaren, no matter what. And I know that Lando, obviously, congratulations to him, has secured his seat for a number of more years. So I think he said like a couple, he's got it for a few more years. So obviously the minimum amount of years for that is like 2. So they're both there until like 2023 at least. So I think, that could be an interesting, how like maybe you associate Jenson Button with McLaren, who was there for a very long time. You associate Schumacher with Ferrari. And I think Norris is going to be that for McLaren, but maybe also Ricciardo could also be that for McLaren.
Yeah, it would be interesting. I think he can. I think you're right. He needs to stay for a while and not just hop about. I don't think he will hop about. I think McLaren are definitely on the up, and they're a good team for him. He just obviously has a variety of different things that he needs to figure out and the team need to figure out. But I do think that there is still definitely a lot of potential there. Like, we can't forget the fact that this is only 5 races in. There's so much more to discover, so much more to learn for all of them, I imagine. So yeah, I think we just need to wait and see, basically. I think that was it for the race.
That
Um,
was a good race.
but we did want to talk about, obviously, the End Racism campaign. It's coming up to a year since George Floyd's death. And obviously we're marking that not just in Formula One, but across a variety of industries and around the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, there were just a few points really on that you wanted to touch upon.
Yeah, I mean, I think just generally, today they did have the introduction just before the race. They kind of covered, George Floyd's death and what has kind of happened within Formula One since then. They've increased, diversity and the campaigns to one, end racism, and to increase the amount of diverse hires within the F1 industry. So I'm glad to see that they did cover that slightly, and we'd be definitely looking to see more of that in the future. I think from my personal point of view, I love the fact that we are now kind of having these conversations, and I don't want people to feel uncomfortable around those conversations. I feel like they're conversations that need to be had. People tend to get their back up and feel away when racism is spoken about. And I often see, I spend a lot of time on Twitter. I often see people just saying, "Oh, you've just connected that to racism," but racism is a part of people's lives. It's something. You have overt racism, you have covert racism, and I've personally been subjected to both. So, for other people to denounce it and say that it doesn't exist, and for something as prolific as George Floyd's death to happen and people to still deny that racism exists is quite hurtful. And I think, I'm just glad to see that the conversation is happening in F1. Lewis Hamilton is championing it, and other people are listening, and other people are perhaps starting to take the mantle themselves and discuss it and move the conversation forwards. So yeah, I'm just looking forward to seeing the things that come of that. And obviously, rest in peace to George Floyd. And I hope his family, we're thinking of everybody at this time.
Yeah. And just on that note, actually, talking about diverse hires and whatnot in Formula One specifically,
Mm.
I'm very focused on the media side of things. I work in a media background and I notice those kind of things quite a lot. So I do just want to highlight, if any of our watchers don't know about these people, there are two guys actually who work for Formula One directly and have a great energy about them. They're very knowledgeable about Formula One. So definitely two people worth checking out are Sam Collins and David Alorca. They're both great presenters, so definitely worth checking out. Hopefully that is just the first of many diverse hires, and hopefully I'd love to see more women of colour in media roles in Formula One. So yeah, I think
Definitely.
on obviously everything that happened over the past year has been a great eye-opener for everyone, and there is still so much work to be done, but for me, for one, I'm glad that we are finally seeing some change. So yeah, hopefully it's
I
just
agree.
part of a long journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And good shout on Sam Collins, because I was actually watching his technical videos on F1 just
Yeah,
yesterday, actually. So
yeah,
yeah,
great, very knowledgeable.
yeah. Actually, one of the technical things that I was watching that he was discussing was Red Bull's bendy wing.
Okay.
You so Red Bull last week, I don't know if anybody noticed, I'm sure you have. If you haven't, last week 2 weeks ago during the race in Barcelona, Lewis Hamilton pointed out very knowledgeably that there was something going on with Red Bull's wing. And I think the general consensus is that maybe he and his engineers had discussions about this privately in the paddock, and he used the race a little bit in order to kind of convey it publicly, so that the FIA would be forced to look into it without them having to actually complain. Whether or not that's true, that's just the rumor, I don't know. But either way, Lewis Hamilton was driving behind Max Verstappen for a very long time, and he picked up on this wing deflection. So I'm going to pop a video down in the chat, in the comments, just so that you guys can refer to it. I don't want to mislead you guys in any way with the technical description of it. So I'll pop a video down in the bottom that very adequately displays what's the difference and what's happening. But essentially what it is that the Red Bull wing moves under different loads and different speeds. So it sits in an upright position, and then if there's a particular load that goes onto it, it kind of bends a little bit backwards, just does a little bit of a bend and flex. And the issue with that is that it can create a benefit for Red Bull, because if they're going down a straight in a straight line, they have less drag, which means that they have more speed. And when they're in a corner and it's more upright, it gives them more downforce and they have more traction. So the issue that most of the other teams are having at the moment is whether or not Red Bull have done this in a way that flouts the FIA regulations. Have they done this on purpose? Have they created a wing that contravenes the rules by, when they're doing testing, it appears to stay still and it appears to stay in the correct position, but during the race, it bends a little bit more than it should. So for the next 2 races, I believe, they will be able to use this wing, and after that the FIA are going to introduce a load test which should allow them to figure out whether or not Red Bull have designed this flaw in, or whether or not it's a natural occurrence, and we should find out whether or not they're breaking rules or not.
That's definitely going to be interesting to see how it impacts Red Bull's future for this season, obviously.
Yeah,
because it reminds me of what happened with the whole Ferrari situation 2 years ago, and people kind of bringing up that, you know, they had all these advantages and whatnot, and yeah, we saw Ferrari kind of then lose that kind of momentum and really drop down to becoming a midfield team. I'm not sure if that will be such a big impact on Red Bull, but it could be, and it could secure Mercedes.
It depends how much it's helping them, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it depends, because if it's helping them a lot, because they do have great speed, and you know they're widely accepted to be the fastest car on the track at the moment. So if they are gaining along the straights and in the corners because of this, and then they're no longer allowed to use it and they have to change their rear wing, that could have serious consequences for them. Yeah. I don't think it's right that the FIA change rules like halfway through a season. I don't think that they should be allowed to do that.
That's quite interesting, because I suppose on the one hand, yeah, it kind of makes things quite difficult and whatever, but on the other hand, that team then has that advantage for the whole season, whereas the other teams don't. So then you're like, okay, well, how much of a fair fight was that really, because they're breaking the rules, you know, or they're bending the rules. So I think it's interesting, but also I think it should be allowed, but more so as the new rules and regulations come in for 2022, because that's when we'll have more equal cars, essentially. So if you do see a car with a particular advantage, that might be a chance for you for the FIA to be like, actually, that's not right, that's kind of exceeding the rules, you kind of need to bring it back down. And then,
so do you think they should be allowed to do that during a season?
Yeah, because if a team is gaining an advantage by potentially breaking the rules, then that should be put to a stop as soon as it's noticed. Because why would you then say,
are they breaking the rules though? This is the problem, because they, you know, they tested.
Yeah, okay, so fine.
And it was tested fine.
If they're not technically breaking the rules, then yeah, I suppose there is an argument as to, you know, should should they really be like allowed to continue or not? But if they are breaking the rules and you see that they are gaining a huge advantage from this wing situation, then yes, I absolutely do think that they should be stopped straight away, because that then is unfair to all the other teams. Unfortunately, in this current season, it means that Mercedes will just have an easy win potentially. But I don't think it's right for them. If it's been flagged up, I don't think it's right for Red Bull to be able to continue as they are. Especially knowing how much of a complainer Christian Horner is. Any small thing he notices about any other team, he goes and flags it up with the FIA and race control and whatever. So I think
Karen Horner.
He literally he should be he should get a taste of his own medicine. So yeah, I think it'll be
I mean, I agree just in general, because it's Red Bull. I feel like
neither of us like Red Bull.
Then he should get like a taste of his own medicine. But I think, the fact that they're having to do an extra test, if it was found under the regular test, then I think that, that's fine. If they've exceeded the regular test and, they haven't adhered to the rules, then yeah, of course they definitely should. But the fact that they're having to bring in an extra test midway through the season, like if they got away with it already, I feel like you should just be able to, whatever car you start off the season with, like you should be able to kind of continue with that. And whenever they do upgrades and stuff, they always test them out, don't they? So I feel like they should just be allowed to continue. And then if they realize, oh, okay, well, our test wasn't good enough because it didn't catch this flaw, then between this season and the next season, then they should change the test, because I feel like it's a continuity thing. Like if you then impede Red Bull, are you then, like you said, helping Mercedes and helping other teams, whereas Red Bull were actually doing okay? So I feel like it's FIA's own fault for not catching them before.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I guess we'll just wait and find out what happens when this whole test comes about in a couple of weeks.
Definitely. Let us know what you think. I would definitely love to know your thoughts. Are Red Bull in the right? Are they in the wrong? Should they be stopped? Should they be helped? Let me know what you think.
Yeah. So we've got Azerbaijan coming up in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And then I think then is when I start counting down to the British Grand Prix, which is coming up very soon in July. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing this title fight continuing. And yeah,
we're off to Baku.
Yeah,
let's go.
So we will see you guys in the next video. In the meantime, as always, don't forget you can catch us on Instagram, where we are very active, and on Twitter. Both @ are on the chicane. And yeah, we'll be back with our next video in a few weeks. Like, comment, share, subscribe, as always.
Do the thing, guys. You know the deal. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for watching.